Hey, and we're live. This is the Pat Shan podcast episode. Motherfucking, I think 3. It's been kind of hard to keep track because it's not a, weekly thing. I did one with Raven Gregory. Last year I did Charlie Stickney and Dan Leister. Now I'm here with Mr. Clay Adams, who is live on Kickstarter with PBOW number 3 right now.
Yeah, number 3 of volume 2. We're up to volume 2
volume
now.
2. So how many total issues do you have so far?
So 5 issues of volume 1, and then we're on issue 3 of volume 2. So doing math, 8. I can still do math.
8's a lot, dude.
Writers can't add.
No, it's true. Yeah, I definitely struggled with math. Sometimes, dude, still, I'll have those high school dreams where it's like I'll have a dream that I'm back in school and I have my schedule, but I've realized I've missed a class all year and I'm fucked. I don't know if that's a common dream to have, but
you still have the anxiety.
Yeah, I definitely have the high school anxiety still. But yeah, dude. So PBOW. That is, one of the main reasons that I wanted to talk is that the title is absolutely batshit crazy. The title is Pregnant Bitches of War, right?
That's it. Yes, that's
dude. That is title is risky. I mean, I like it. It sticks with you. It kind of reminds me of manga where the title is so specific. I kind of based how I did Smoke Leads to the Future as, the idea being that the pitch is in the title,
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So that was the idea.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of also get the vibe from there too, because I mean, I see that title and I think like a Grindhouse kind of vibe.
Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly what we were going for. So it's me and my co-writer, Alexander O'Philippe, who is a documentary filmmaker. He did People versus George Lucas, among many other things, but that's the thing that probably the comics crowd might know him best for.
Yeah.
And yeah, when we came up with this title, it was like, we just laughed at how dumb the title was, and it was like, all right, well, now let's try to see if we can make that actually good. Yeah. But yeah, the idea was the pitch is in the title. You know exactly what you're getting. You know if this is for you or if this is not for you. It's sort of like it's its own litmus test.
Yeah. I will say right here, we have a comment already from Mr. Raven Gregory. Now, Raven Gregory is a writer from Zenoscope Entertainment.
Yes.
He hasn't had credits in a very long time, unfortunately. He is an aspiring comedian who is posting clips way too fucking early, and he does this thing where he'll post comments to me. And listen, we're close friends.
I'm getting a vibe here.
Yeah, Raven and I are close friends, but the problem is, all right, if I met a guy, right, who had, a bit of an Irish red tint to his face.
Sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't say, man, look at this pink fuck. Because guess what? I'm the pinkest fuck there is, right? Raven, who could cosplay as Jabba the Hutt just by being fucking naked, loves to make fat comments on my feed. And
He's
listen,
giving you a tough time.
Yeah, listen, I'm a thick guy, but Raven Gregory, even though he's lost about half his weight, congratulations. You fat fuck, right? You fat fuck, right?
Congratulations, Raven, and thank you for the kind words. Although I have to stick up for Pat because he invited me on his live stream and you haven't. So, I got to stick with my guy here.
Yeah, but listen, we'll have Raven Gregory back again. He'll be even skinnier by then. Will he be as in shape as your boy? No. Which is still not saying much for fucking either of us. It's all good though. But let's get back to Pregnant Bitches of War. Pregnant Bitches of War, dude.
Yes.
Have you had any pushback? That's the first comment that my wife asked me when I was talking to her about this, because it's obvious, like, I mean, it's a title that's almost designed to call for pushback.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, some people love it, some people hate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of, it's one of those things that it is what it is. Like, would we sell more copies if it had a different title? Maybe, but we're on issue 8. And at this point, like, I don't know that we can change it now. But like you said, it does say what the book is. I mean, it's for fans of Preacher, it's for fans
Yeah,
of The Boys, and sort of that. Well, and I just named two Garth Ennis titles, but Mark Miller and all
yeah,
those other sort of over the top action Quentin Tarantino movies. And it is sort of designed. It's not. We're not trying to shock just to shock.
yeah,
We're not trying to like be edge lords or anything like that. Just like get in your face and rub your face in it. But
yeah,
like it is a certain sensibility that like it's dark humor, it's black humor. You either dig it or you don't. And yeah, for sure. I mean, nobody's nobody sent us screeds or angry screeds or anything like that. But
that's good.
I think that I think there are for sure going to be people who just don't like the title and they're going to be turned off by it. But you know what? They're not going to like the book. So um, I guess we didn't lose anything there.
Yeah, dude. Because I mean, I have friends who have titles that are, you know, not even edgy. Like, do you know Bob France and Kevin Cuff?
Yeah, yeah. I've never spoken to them in person, but yeah, I know them. I Twitter know them.
Yeah, they do Metal Shark Bro, and they
Yes.
have a podcast called Word Bros. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, I would have never thought so, but they got some pushback, I think, or a negative reaction from someone who assumed that it was going to be, a certain kind of vibe because of the phrase "Word Bros." So you can really never guess what negative reaction people will
That's
have.
crazy.
Yeah, but dude, for your shit, I can kind of guess what negative reaction. But I like it. It's unique. It has the vibe in the title. Um, I mean, dude, if I were you, I would almost feel like a challenge to make the next title even crazier. Like, you got pregnant bitches of war. Maybe do uh, like, uh, sickly hoes of the street or something. I don't know. Uh, have you
That's the
thought about?
next one. That's the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
one. Yeah.
Have you thought about like out crazying yourself as far as that goes, or are you more just this is what it is and it's separate from the rest of what you do?
Yeah, I think I mean, honestly, it's kind of I'm kind of feeling like it is what it is, and it's a little like Kickstarter definitely has a kind of book that it likes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's a kind of book that does well, and that kind of book is Lovecraft porn. Like if I can have a Lovecraft book that has
Yeah.
boobies on it, like I would make a bajillion dollars. But so like I'm definitely as a business person going, well, I can write to market and I can make a book that Kickstarter would really like and really want to support. And so this is like, I guess that's a long way of my long way of saying no. I haven't really thought about out crazying myself
Right.
because that's the first question. I like your first question was the first question everybody asks me. Do you ever get any pushback on that title, or
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
or somebody will be like, so I know you've got some controversial books, and it's like, well, I'm not trying to be controversial. Like nobody's trying to be controversial. We love women. We love, like we love the ladies. In fact, so a
Yeah.
lot of this is me dealing with anxiety over being a father, and like having a daughter in the world, and just like my anxiety with it. But it comes out in this dark humor and goes to dark places. And oh, Gay Gingers in Wonderland. I'll think about that one, Raven. Thank you. Um, yeah, so it's like I come from the George Carlin school. Like he really informed a lot of my development, and so
Yeah.
that's ingrained in me that like, I teach my kids there's no such thing as bad words. Like words are not bad. It's
Okay.
it's how
Okay.
you use them,
Yeah.
right? But the words in and of themselves are not bad. It's what you do with them. And so anyway, that was just like so ingrained in me that like I don't necessarily think about what's going to be offensive to people in that way. And maybe I don't know, maybe we should. But again, like we're not trying to shock. It's certainly
Yeah.
it's just certainly meant to give you the tone of the book and the vibe, and it's either for you or it's not.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's, you know, there's no way that you can really predict what will get to people. I mean,
Right.
I've had people, you tend to think that a lot of the more hardcore reaction is a politics thing, whether it's a left thing or a right thing. I
Right.
I've got it from both sides. I have had a
That means you're
guy.
doing something right.
I mean, hopefully, yeah. I had a guy that was. I mean, to my knowledge, he seemed far right. He emailed me talking about how he was how he was so excited to read my story Stitch from Avatar. And Stitch, I was picking up from Garth Ennis and Mike Wolfer. It was this really intense hardcore horror set with the background of the Iraq War. And he hated that the storyline opened with these men hating women. And what he didn't read long enough to realize was that they were talking about the Taliban. Like the dudes that they were talking about were in the actual Taliban. So if he had read long enough, he would have seen that. He probably agrees with them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the same token, like I've gotten left-leaning readers have sometimes criticized certain things like not having trigger warnings in certain stories. And it's just you really can't imagine what it'll be. You'll always get got on something. I mean,
Right.
have you ever gotten any feedback from readers where you're like, I don't even know what to fucking say?
I mean, sure, all the time. I mean, well, maybe all the time is an overstatement, but yeah, I think if you write anything in this world and in this environment, there's just there's just no there's no telling what people are going to react to and what's going to set them off and like everything. I mean, even at like kind of at this point, I feel like we're at the point where like a knock knock joke is offensive,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
somebody cut down trees to make that door. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And so so it's like you just never know what's going to set somebody off, and yeah, it's like the right wing people are going to get upset about if you do one thing, and then the left wing people are going to get upset if you do the other thing, and then
yeah.
who knows? You never know who you're going to offend, and I think as long as you're not trying to offend anybody, you're okay in my book.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I also think, I mean, there could be a good kind of offense. I feel like there were elements of the stories that you mentioned, right? Preacher,
Yep.
The Boys. I think that those are offensive to the sensibilities in a very purposeful way. I think that when a book comes off as being carelessly offensive and not picking its targets right, that's when I think that it feels messy and it feels mean, because Preacher has
Right.
elements that I would look at and say, on the surface level, I can see how it would be offensive to someone who blank, right? But it doesn't feel mean. Like, I mean, a great example is Paper Girls #1. There's a character who uses a homophobic slur, and she's one of the main leads. And that book is a highly praised, lauded book that came out during this era, right?
Right.
And that isn't a major talking point because the book does it in a way where it's establishing the world of that time, it's establishing her character, and it doesn't feel mean, and I think it
Right.
does come down a lot to the the writer's character.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's something that we very much aspired to, that preacher model where it is, it's got to be humanistic. If you're
Yeah,
just like you said, if you're trying to beat up on people, or you're trying to put people down, or this group against that group, and like, so in PBOW we do the whole idea is that these pregnant women have been sucked from the time stream by Nikola Tesla. They go back in time. They kill a young Hitler, but
right.
then that makes the world worse. Butterfly effect. Things go wrong, and so now they've gotta like correct this error. Save the world from a hell of their own creation before their water breaks.
That's interesting.
And
Yeah. I mean, something that you can get kind of caught on is someone who might read the book wanting to get angry would be like, how is the world better with Hitler, But I'm sure that there's so much context to what you did there.
yeah, and so like talking about reaction, like I was talking about this the other night. I had one neighbor when the book first came out, you know, almost 10 years ago when we did the first issue.
Damn, 10 years, huh?
Yeah. We
Damn.
premiered it in 2013. So we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the first issue.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. We're long haulers. We've been
Yeah.
around for a while. But it's but you know, she was like, well, why, you know, why Hitler? Why deal with Hitler? And I was like, well, it's not, you know, that's sort of like the question that everybody asks when you're like, if you could go back in time, would you kill a young Hitler?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
everybody, you know, unquestionably is like, yes, absolutely, I would do that. And of course, you know, you would want to stop those atrocities.
yeah.
But I think we were interested in like butterfly effect and like what, you know, let's just posit for the sake of this story. What if there was somebody who, because now this vacuum was created, because
Yeah.
nature abhors a vacuum, somebody even worse steps into it,
Oh,
right?
that's interesting. Yeah.
And so now they're being like these action heroes, for lack of a better word, who have to like take down the exalted father. So the big bad is dad. And so to get back to your original question, like they're living in a world where people are mean to each other.
Yeah.
And some of them might have some, let's say, less enlightened viewpoints, but it's always the character talking and it's not the writer talking. And I think that's something that like, I think readers can sometimes lose track of, that like, if a character in Paper Girls says the word gay, you know, in a derogatory way, that's not the writer's values. That's the character in that particular, like, that was an 80s setting, right? Like that was, yeah, like it's the way it was used at the time. And so like, yeah, it's very much about the characters and the situations and not like a writer espousing their values. I think there's a way that, hey, thanks, Raven. I appreciate that.
Well, check this comment out and then get ready. From a man who had a weight of over 400 pounds saying this. Imagine a man double my size at my absolute worst. The balls, the shriveled balls on this 47-year-old man. All right.
I'm loving the comments from the peanut gallery.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there's a way that I could pitch this book, right, that could make it sound like, you know, I could say it's women fighting the patriarchy and you know, like I could make it, there's a way I could pitch it that would make it sound very, very woke and very like whatever. And then that would turn off a certain amount of people. And then there's a way that I could pitch it that makes it sound like, well, it's this edgy in your face, over the top action and violence and foul language and this and that. And like, and that would turn off a whole other set of people. And so, you know, like, I think there's Alexander and I always said with Fried Comics, which is the name of our company, that we called it Fried Comics because we wanted the stories to be like fried food. It's like, it's goes down easy. It tastes good. It might not necessarily be good for you, but we maybe slipped in a little tomato slice and like a little piece of lettuce in there, you know, that you might not have noticed, but it's there.
I mean, dude, that's good. Raven and I know all about fucking fried food. I will say Raven tends to remove the tomatoes that's added in, but
sorry, dude.
I'll take it.
You can still enjoy it. You can just take it off and have the meat and bun, and it's all good, man.
What's the structure of Fried Comics? Is it you two as the creative mind hold, or are you trying to become a larger company in Diamond, or is it going to stay the indie route?
Yeah, I mean, for the moment, we're staying the indie route. Like when we first came up with it, there was no real grand plan other than that we were going to make $1 bajillion selling 99-cent downloads on our website. And spoiler alert, that did not pan out. And then we discovered Kickstarter, and that was sort of revolutionary because you can fund your passion projects, you can find your crowd, you can really find a great community there and get your work into print. And then now there are companies like Scout, like Behemoth, that will publish things that have already been kickstarted. So it's a nice model for paying for the work and getting it out there, and then there's a longer tail for getting into shops. So I'm kind of feeling like as long as there's that route to go, that we don't necessarily have to try to get into Diamond by ourselves. So one of our books that we kickstarted, Red Xmas, was picked up by Scout and just released as a trade paperback.
Congrats,
yeah. Thank you. And we might have other books heading to the direct market sometime soon. I can let you know about that when I have something to say. But
awesome.
Yeah, so there is a route there for creators, and so I think for right now, I think we're just happy to kind of like go the Kickstarter route and then look for a publisher afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, Kickstarter, it's been, for me personally, transformative. And I do I look at you as a guy that I always see on there, like I try to do I started at 3. I try to do between now 4 to 6 per year. That's been kind of tempered by the printer situation.
Oh man, it's been so bad.
It really has. Especially international. I I always bitch about this, so I try not to get into it too much, but the time that a book will sit at port and customs after shipping to the country is really bad. It has already cut one campaign from this year for me, and it's probably going to cut 1 to 2 more, unfortunately. But yeah, it still has been transformative. I have to figure out certain elements of how to make it a bit more expedited. But at what point, what year did you begin shifting focus to Kickstarter?
Was it 2016, 2017? So we kickstarted our first book in 2014. We did the first issue of Red Xmas, and it was so difficult. Like, I think we had a $3,000 goal, and we were struggling to make it. And I think somewhere about halfway through that campaign, we were like, "Oh my God, we're not going to make it. Like, what are we going to do?" And I started Googling. Dude. It is scary, right? So I started Googling, how do I run a comics Kickstarter campaign? And so I came across Tyler James's site for comics launch, or Comics Tribe, I think at the time. And he had a blog where he just had all these blog posts about how to run a Kickstarter campaign. And I literally did everything that dude said. And suddenly we were funded, and but just barely. And I think it was, it was invigorating enough for me. I think Alexander felt a little bit like, oof, I don't know. That was a lot of work for $3,000,
It is.
It is. And so, we kind of cooled it for a little bit. But then as I sort of getting involved in the Kickstarter community and joining Comics Launch when Tyler launched, his courses and things like that, and just learning more about how it worked and building a mailing list. I think I plunged in 2017. We did a launch for the PBOW trade for volume 1.
Yeah.
And I think we made in, 24 hours what it took us 3 weeks to make in our very first campaign, and it was like, okay,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, great. We're getting somewhere, and each campaign has been different. There are some titles do very well. Other titles, struggle a bit more, but, so you might have a 5-figure campaign, like the Nightmare Theater anthology I co-edit did 30,000. And then some of my other things have done 13,000. And then, you might make 6 on something else. It just kind of depends on the title and the audience for it and the time that it's out and things like that. But it's been revolutionary. And I think for somebody like you do a bunch of conventions, right? So
yeah. I
it's
for a
good for you
while
for
I
having
wasn't, but yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it's good for you for having stock. I don't do a ton of conventions. I'd like to start doing more, but I sell mostly through the Kickstarters.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you, it's like you gotta run several. I did 5 last year and had a really good year. It was a lot of work. It left me totally drained and exhausted.
Yeah.
And I'm right where you are with the paper situation because we decided not to go overseas because of all the delays. We had delays on a book last year, so we didn't go overseas for Nightmare Theater. And then I had another book with a local printer or with a domestic printer where they screwed up the printing, so they've got to reprint it. But there's a paper shortage. So the
Yeah.
book was already late because of the paper shortage.
Oh,
Now it's even
Jesus.
later, and we're just waiting. And like, yeah, I'm already one Kickstarter behind for the year. So it's affecting the business.
Yeah, it's very impactful. I do have to ask you off camera once this is all done,
Yeah.
where you printed Nightmare Theater, because the book came out great, and I'm
Oh,
very
awesome.
curious. I'm very curious.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, man, there was one thing that you said that I wanted to stick on to. Oh yeah, from before about how about marketing something specifically for Kickstarter, because
Mhm.
as you said, a campaign can hit 30 and then your next campaign can hit 6. That's the thing that I think a lot of people who are newer on Kickstarter and in comics don't really follow. They think that when they hit a solid campaign, that they've broken into that level
Right.
of campaigning. And I've had to speak to creators that think that they're failing when their um, new campaign is performing less uh, bombastically than their last campaign.
Yeah.
Um, and that isn't the case. It's what you said before. I think it's a matter of finding a book that speaks to the Kickstarter market and pushing it correctly. And I mean, what you said is true. On Kickstarter, people love Lovecraft, and
Yep.
people love titties.
They love the
It's
boobs. Yeah.
very true.
If you can do Cthulhu with tits, you're golden.
I mean, I'm surprised that Brian Polito hasn't done it yet.
It's coming. Trust me,
Yeah.
it's coming.
Uh, yeah. I mean, even what I learned the hard way was I kind of thought that my brain was in the mode of when people see how I write and the kind of artists I'm working with, they'll want to get all my titles.
Right.
Not true.
It's not true.
Not true.
Yeah.
What I found was that it became important for me to realize, all right, who is on Kickstarter and what are they buying? Because uh, we did Destiny New York, which was the first one was just about funded. It was one of those last day funds.
Uh-huh.
We were so close. We were at about the goal was 20. I think that we were about 16 or 17. And then our letterer, Jim Campbell, on the last day, he pledged $1,000,
Oh,
and that
wow.
shot us up in Kickstarter's algorithm. So pledges began coming in, and we ended up overfunding, and that
Awesome.
was very close. It was very
That's
close.
very kind of him.
Yeah, and my thought was, all right, next time I'm gonna have a much lower goal, and we'll be able to outperform that. And the next book that we did was an all ages book, and
Right.
what I didn't know was that,
They don't do
and
as
it
well.
makes so much sense, but kids don't use Kickstarter, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
yeah. So, and also, my thought was, all right, well, if kids don't use Kickstarter, maybe it'll be bought as a gift. But the thing about a gift is that when someone buys it, they want it to come when they order it so they can give it, right?
Immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't
Kickstarter
want to
isn't
wait
that.
6 months for the for the port
Yeah.
to clear your stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't want to wait till it says November delivery and then have a bunch of updates. Well, we're running behind us, this, and that, and it's
Right.
understandable. But fuck, dude, that the kids' books thing is so hard. And what sticks out about what you said is that the one out, for some reason, I don't even get it, dude, but the one out is Cthulhu. Dirk
Yeah.
Mann recently did a kids' book that had Cthulhu as a part of it, and it did well. And
Right.
it's unreal to me. It's
That's
unreal.
when
People,
Tyler James has the same thing. He's got the C is for Cthulhu board books, and those things sell like gangbusters. So that is, I don't know. That's, I think the parents want those more, maybe, more than the babies
oh, I
do.
think so too. Yeah, I think it's like a Cthulhu collector's market for some reason. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's cool. I mean, both Russell Nolte, Travis Gibb, they do it really, really well.
yeah, they do.
Um, it did surprise me to see a kids Cthulhu book work so well from Dirk. Because I was like, all right, well, Cthulhu works, but it's a kid's book on Kickstarter. It's not going to work, but it worked. So more power to him. We have a comment here from Gary
Yes.
Oyster, who is my last guest. Said,
Ah,
have either of you done one of those figure out your target audience? I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah, about figuring out your target audience on Kickstarter. Clay, I mean, you were talking a
yeah.
bit about that. So can you get into
Yeah,
the mud there?
like I've run, so I've done questionnaires with my mailing list, to try to figure out, what are these people reading? What are they into? What do they like? What kind of movies do they like? And that's tough, man, because very few people respond to those things. You're not going to get a great response rate, and it may not necessarily be representative of who's actually buying the books, because that, just because they filled out a questionnaire also doesn't mean that they're actually purchasing.
Very true.
So the biggest thing I can do is like throw the stuff up there, see what people are responding to, and then just make more of that. Like whatever people seem to want, give them more of that. And you know, like you have some titles in the works where it's like, well, I got to keep going on this, even though like this is not my most popular title.
Yes.
You want to show people that you're somebody who finishes what they start. And so, you get it done, but it's like, if you've got a real moneymaker, you'd be crazy not to keep going forward with that. And then also like looking, like Pat was saying, like you just look at what's selling on Kickstarter and what people are really getting behind. And man, it's so what you're saying about the kids market. Like my friend James Powell does House of Fear, which is a fantastic book, and it's a like maybe a PG-13 kind of horror book for the middle grades, or maybe like 12. My son's 13; he loves them. But he struggles sometimes, and but it's like, yeah, I think his best-selling campaign had Cthulhu in it, and it was House of Fear with Cthulhu. And you kind of learn that these little tricks that people like, but then it's, if every book was a Cthulhu book, would they all sell? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, dude, maybe,
Maybe
Yeah.
those people like to throw the money at the Cthulhu.
Oh, it's true. And I mean, we talked before about conventions too. And what I note is that what we experience at conventions is different than Kickstarter, because
Yes.
Kickstarter is a very specific market. Um, and the direct market is also very different from Kickstarter. What
Mm-hmm.
sells in the DM versus conventions versus Kickstarter, the shit's different. I
Yep.
At conventions, Clonsters, the all ages book that struggled,
Yeah.
is our number 1 or 2 seller. It's always going to be one of the kids' books. It's Clonsters or Spooky Girls,
Yep.
and Spooky Girls had a kind of horror element, so that did okay, but Clonsters was a struggle, and then ends up making that money back, not on Kickstarter, but at
At the
conventions.
cons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the kids are there, they see it, and it's it appeals to the kids when they see it. But it just wasn't on a platform that they could see it.
Right.
And meanwhile, a book that could blow up on Kickstarter. I mean, my biggest one was Thirsty so far, and
Uh-huh.
and that's the book that my wife and I did. It is a collection of 4, we say, not safe for work stories, and that book is one that was the biggest on Kickstarter, but I don't know about conventions, because people are going to be in person there, and they're
Right.
going to either like kind of be scared to look horny in person,
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like Russell Nolte, you mentioned, like his Cthulhu books, He wants those anthologies to not be R-rated. They can't
Yeah.
be adult content or anything like that, because he has found that when he's trying to sell them at conventions, it's parents bringing their kids to a con,
Yeah. It's a good
and
point.
they want to get something that their kid can read. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a totally different market.
Yeah, dude. It's almost like we have to be secretive about what is in the books to kind of trick the audience in some ways. Like, dude, for example, I just did the exact opposite of Russell on Vampire Emmy. That was
Yeah.
the book that I had. It was a rom-com, and when we did the single issue, we did it as we really pitched as it's all ages. It's they're adults. It's a rom-com, but it's for anyone. When we did the Kickstarter version, which had an extra story, it was a trade. When we were putting together the Kickstarter, I was talking to my editor Shannon, and I was like, "We are not going to fucking mention all ages in any bit of this shit.
Right.
It's going to look like a dark vampire romance story, and when they read it, they'll either enjoy it and see what it is, or be like, not what I thought." But
This
it
wasn't
isn't,
for me.
yeah, it isn't a kid's book, but I learned to hide that shit, to not say all ages, because people do want the idea on Kickstarter that they're not being marketed a kid's book, and they'll see all ages as kids. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I heard Diana Gabaldon say
yeah.
that she when she was pitching Outlander to people in the early days, like if she was at a romance convention, she'd pitch it as romance. If
Right.
she was talking to like more sci-fi fans, it was a time travel story or an adventure story. It just like really
Yeah.
depends on who you're talking to, how you pitch it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, I'll tweak my verbal pitch at cons too, based on how a person looks and dresses and how their energy when they
Right.
speak. Do you do cons?
I do some. I mostly go just to like network and see people, and
Yeah.
like I just like talking to people. Less so standing behind a table selling, but that's mostly because a lot of these conventions, it's so expensive to get a table, and then you got to
Yeah.
travel there, and then you got to so if I can get comped for a table, and it's nearby, and I don't have to travel anywhere or ship my books or anything, I'll usually do those cons. I am looking to, so I'm kind of like, a few years ago, I moved to basically the Midwest, for lack of a better word, but I'm like within a day's drive of a lot of great places. So like I can drive to Chicago, I can drive to Denver, I can drive to Dallas, and bless you.
Thank you.
And so I wanted to start doing more conventions, and then it was like COVID hit. And
Yeah.
so now that we're coming out of it, I was a little slow to apply to some of these cons. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see how it goes.
It would definitely be cool to see you out there. I my first comeback was New York Comic Con last year, and it was
Yeah.
definitely, the vibe was not bad. It was slower than most years, which is kind of almost a blessing considering New York.
Right.
Dude, yeah, I've had stressful moments at New York. Even just walking the floors, you start to wonder, why do I do this shit?
Why do I do this? Yeah.
Why do I do this, dude?
I mean, I think that once a day, let alone, at a
Yeah, I
con,
mean, I
but
was gonna ask, have you had those moments where you're like, why am I doing this shit?
constantly. It's, I mean,
Yeah.
but it's sick compulsion, like I think if you like to create and you like to entertain people,
Yeah.
that's a hard thing to walk away from. And I like making things that people like to read. And
Yeah.
for me too, even with Kickstarter, my two favorite parts of Kickstarter are when the money comes in and I can pay artists.
Yes. Yeah.
That makes me feel good that I'm helping this artist, in their career or whatever, make money. And then also, like, when you're sending out the books, hey, what's up, Phil? When you're sending out the books, seeing all the names of the people that come back, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Definitely.
Pat, here you go. Like, those two things for me make it worthwhile. Making some money is nice.
Yeah.
You know, when you have a project that goes smoothly and there's you know, you get along well with the other creators and you don't have a whole lot of other issues going on. That's always nice too. But you know, this is a tough gig. You know, being any kind of creative
Yeah.
venture is tough. I've been a professional actor since I was 8, and so I've been in some kind of creative capacity for a very long time. And it's hard. It's like it's Sisyphus, you know, you're rolling the rock up the hill and then it rolls back down and you got to do it
Yeah.
all over again, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, being both an actor and a writer must be incredibly stressful. What what is it that brings you to that why do I do this moment?
You know, it's usually tax time, you
Oh,
know, when you're
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
I did all this work for that,
I
you know?
relate, yeah, yeah,
What's that about? You know, like yeah, like you know, I had a good year last year. Like I said, I was able to work
yeah,
in 5 Kickstarters and most of them did really well. And then I also, you know, I've started lettering and also helping people out with their campaigns. And so like between all of that and some editing, you know, like it turned into a really good year, but then it's like then you pay everything out and you write a big tax bill and
yep.
you know, you're like, boy, I don't got a lot left over.
No, very very much so. It's a lot. I mean, especially on Kickstarter when you're really, you become both the creative force and a manager in certain ways,
Yes.
so you do kind of lose some of the sheen of the creative joy when you see the actual finances broken down for sure. Um, what gets me sometimes is signings, dude.
Really?
Yeah, the worst I've ever felt about writing is I won't say the shop. I did a signing in Jersey at a shop that I'd signed at before, and
Uh-huh.
it did okay. The signing wasn't that bad, and the first time that I signed there, I had a bunch of books kickstarted. I always ask shops, can I leave some books here? Either you buy them or do it on consignment. Some shops will buy all my stock, and it's great. This shop I drove to, it was about 3 hours away, and they had taken stuff before, and this time I had a bunch of new stuff. I was
Right.
excited, and I was like, "Hey guys, can I leave some stuff here again?" And they were just like, "No,
Uh,
we're all good." And I was just like, "Okay." And then I started driving home, and I was just thinking the whole time, like, why even have me out then? And
right.
as I was driving, I tried to get off because it took me through New York City. And I was trying to merge onto this highway and it was closed and I was like lost in the city. And I was in this situation where I was lost in the worst traffic city in the world, thinking about why did they do that to me? And I was just like, you know what? Fuck comics, dude.
Right.
Why do I do this? But then there are moments like that. But then there are also moments where you get a good deal with a publisher that you've been courting for a long time.
Yes.
There's things that you said, like the moment that you mentioned when you see the list of backers' names, and
Yeah.
it's almost as if you're like, oh, wow, you realize that you're seeing names of people who consistently support you, and
Hmm.
you're realizing the level of support that you have. And it's great. Oh my God, this fat fuck is still going off. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him, dude. If anyone could search Raven Gregory's name and look at him on Facebook, just imagine a Muppet that takes 10 times the material a normal Muppet takes to make. That's Raven Gregory. It's a hideous thing to
That's
see.
quite the image.
Behold, yeah, he looks like Cisco if Cisco, instead of being the star of the thong song, was star of My 400 Pound Life. It's a sad story. I love him though. It's all good.
That's why you're
Um,
such a successful writer, Pat, because you're so great with that imagery. Like it's right, it's lodged in my head now and I can't unsee it.
Look, dude. Yeah, bitch. I stutter, and you have other problems. Okay. Do you, do you want me to get into the laundry list? Dude, I'm happy to be a stuttering fuck who can still do a podcast. Imagine being a writer who can't even do that. Oh, it
Oh.
stings though. It stings. It fucking stings. But all right, so
Do you guys
Raven
need to
and
get a
I,
room? I think you need to get a room.
we can be very mean to one another, but that is one
It's
of the
love. I feel the
yeah,
love.
it's one of the cool parts about entering into comics and making bonds. There are certain people I've met here who I'll have a lifelong bond with. And even though Raven Gregory, it sucks that I've surpassed him. It sucks that his
Sure.
career isn't where I thought it was going to be at this
Right.
point, and that's real. Uh, but I'll always love him. Do you have any homies that you've met over the course of your career that you're bonding with beyond just comics?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Charlie Stickney is a great
Man,
guy.
he's the man.
He's the mayor of comics. He actually introduced me. So when I moved, I was in Atlanta before where I am now, and when I moved, Charlie was like, "Oh, I know somebody who lives in that area. Let me connect you guys." And so
Yeah,
I met him, a guy named Mick Byers, and Mick and I have become good friends. We actually share office space now. Got a little office downtown, and we're in that little box together for many hours a day working on stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, there are lots of great people. I could give shout outs all day long. Lots of great people. David Schrader is a guy, my co-editor on Nightmare Theater. Now
yeah,
we know each other from making movies. I was in a film that he co-directed and co-produced like 20 years ago. But we reconnected when he got into comics and I was in comics, and we've
yeah.
bonded. Like there's a lot of great people out there.
I do want to hit on something that you just said, but really quick first.
Yeah.
Raven says, I write, I can do it. And the sad story there is, but you don't.
Oh, dang.
And that's the advice to give to other writers out of that. If you have the talent, you better
Do it.
use it, or you'll end up like this fucker Raven Gregory. Okay.
It's a cautionary tale, people.
but,
Cautionary tale.
but dude, Clay,
Yeah.
you mentioned having an office space. Dude,
Yes.
I dream of that shit. It must be so helpful because I like my area, what I've made for myself here. I can go and escape to some level. I'm upstairs. I have no fucking door,
Right.
but
Right.
dude, what you have, I mean, that must be sick. What is it like to have that escape to go to?
It's amazing. It's amazing, and I wish I had done it earlier. I don't know that with COVID, I don't know that I could have, but yeah, it got to a point where I've been working from home for years,
Yeah,
writing, and even before that, being an actor. It's like I could go record Yu-Gi-Oh in my closet, on my laptop, and I didn't have to go anywhere. And so after a while, especially after having kids home from school and my wife working from home, and like we're just all in the house together, I couldn't wait to get out. But it was one of those things where, like I said, like I wrote a big tax bill last year, and I was like, I need some more write-offs. And I'm like, as long as I'm writing this check to somebody, I'd rather get something out of it.
it's smart.
And
It's
and
definitely smart.
yeah, so I negotiated. I went to this place downtown. Hey, it's John. How are you, man? Um, so I went to this place downtown that like I started like a Regis office. I'm sure you've got Regis where you are. Or at least they're, I don't know, they're all over the place, but they rent office space. And
Yeah.
basically what I discovered talking to them, you know, they were hurting after COVID. They were basically like, just name your price and we'll get you in. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I gave them a stupid lowball offer, and they were like, great, when can you move in?
Really,
And
dude?
and I was like, all right, let's go.
After this is done, I'll ask you both about the printing and that
Yes,
shit because that
absolutely. Absolutely.
I could use that. I could
Yeah.
really use that shit, dude. Um,
It's
all right.
great because when I'm at the office, I'm there working,
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
I don't have to focus on other things, other distractions. What's even great about it, like because the building has a loading dock, when I got a shipment of books, it was cheaper to ship to the office than to my house
Yeah.
by exactly 1 month's rent on the office.
That's great. I mean, dude, I was wondering the same thing if you have books there because
Yeah.
I have at this point I have 2 storage units and I'm
Mhm.
starting to clear up my apartment here. Dude, my shit was crazy. My
Right.
living room was half boxes. And yeah, to be able to have storage and also have an office, that's really, really cool. So I'll ask you about that.
Definitely.
But before we end though, do you have any well, first, you are on Kickstarter right now. I will
Yes.
update this video to have the link in the comments. You just pop it over to me in our
Awesome.
DM.
Yeah, will do.
That is a PBOW number volume 2 number 3
That's correct.
currently live. And if you want to give a quick pitch for that one.
Yep. So it's 6 pregnant women sucked from the time stream by inventor Nikola Tesla. They go back in time, accidentally kill a young Hitler, and make the world worse. Now they must save the world from a hell of their own creation before their water breaks. Pregnant Bitches of War. This is volume 2, World War Bitch, and it's just as crazy as it sounds.
It does sound crazy. It does sound very crazy. And I mean, dude, if people ask that all the time, as you said, about if you can go back in time, would you kill Hitler? And I'm just like, there's the question of he looks like a baby. Like I would at least want to fucking like draw a little mustache on him, But
Right.
yeah, that
Right. So you can see it. Yeah.
yeah. So you just see what he'll become. But yeah,
Right.
draw a
Right.
mustache, draw their little angry eyebrows, But yeah, no, you are exploring it in a very interesting way, and I'm happy to see the book's success. I'm happy to see your success.
Right back at you.
Yeah, man. Follow Clay Adams. Fried Comics does 4 to 5 campaigns per year.
Yeah, that's the plan. Between that and then Bloodline Comics, which is where I do Nightmare Theater with David Schrader. So between the two, yeah, we're trying to do about 4 or 5 a year.
Yep.
I
And
got to
hey,
pay for that
Raven,
office, man.
Raven, no shit. I just fucking said it, dude. I didn't put the comment. There, no shit. No fucking shit, dude. No shit. Okay. It's gonna be in the YouTube links description. That's where this is gonna be seen most. Okay. You this guy is remedial. All right. So, dude, you and I will talk off camera. Thank you for
Sounds
doing
good.
this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's a very casual show. Hopefully it'll on YouTube get some more attention to the Kickstarter. And though you don't really need it, you're already killing it. Anyone who sees it will be a fun, positive extra pledge, but you are already killing it on your own. You have a cool steady audience of backers, and I'm happy to see your success, man.
Thanks, man. Much appreciated. Right back at you.
Thank you, dude. We are out of here, and then you and I will talk in a second.
Awesome.